So, a lot of people don't realize Web3 as a whole is pretty vast, right? There's a lot of different verticals within it. There's NFTs, there's DAOs, there's cryptocurrency, um, DeFi, right? I guess maybe it would be interesting to do like a quick take on all of those different verticals. Like, what's your kind of take on it? So the criterias are like whether they're early, underrated, or overrated. So like we'll go one by one. So NFT, right? This like kind of like new kind of blew up during the pandemic. What's your feeling on NFT?
Look, I think NFTs are it's definitely interesting. There's a lot of stuff that's happening with NFTs and lots of things that are emerging in terms of uses of NFTs. I think like NFTs in one way are overrated, but also are underrated, right? I think it's like very early on lots of these things, right? So I think speculation on NFTs might be overrated. I think that the overall utility of what an NFT can do is definitely underrated.
I think it's very early. I think it's overrated in some respects. Like it went too far ahead in certain things. And then I think it's underrated in certain other areas. Like there's I think utility NFTs are still really early. Like we're seeing new use cases of how people are doing it. I think maybe NFTs as art kind of went a little bit too fast. I think we'll get there and like grow into what it was. But I think there's just so many other use cases for NFTs that people are underrating right now and don't fully understand. They just see this JPEG of a monkey was sold for $10 million and
Yeah, 100% agree. I think there's a lot of potential for companies that wants to do like loyalty programs and stuff like that. Before you had to have your own system database, but with the NFT infrastructure, you could essentially get going in a day or two, right? So there's definitely a lot of benefit to that. DeFi, what's your feeling on DeFi?
DeFi is definitely, I think it's underrated. I think that there's elements of it which have been in the public eye recently that have given it kind of a bad rap. But if you look at all of those things, they're not really DeFi. They're mostly just like centralized protocols that are run by private companies that then farm that money out into like privatized lending, which is not really DeFi at all. But I think overall DeFi is underrated for sure.
Yeah, I would agree. It's all three again. And something that I've been thinking of a lot recently is how the permissionlessness aspect that we've been talking about is contributing to this all threeness, where it's both overrated and underrated. And if you look at traditional startups and startup equity, you have to be an accredited investor to invest in a startup. Rounds are competitive, so you're not taking everyone's money that you can, because there's only so much dilution a founder is willing to give up for a certain round. There's not liquidity if you do get startup equity, so you can't just trade the share or the safe that you just invested and got to some other investor for a higher multiple right away. But when you look at what happened in DeFi, you have all of these tokens being launched for like essentially pre-product market fit startups that had instant liquidity, had millions of retail investors being able to buy them without having to prove accreditation or anything like that. So all of the future growth and future potential of these protocols basically was pulled way forward because people saw the future or saw hype, and their market caps really surpass their current actual value. So that in that regards, a lot of these DeFi protocols that some are doing really innovative things, some are just straight up clones or forks of others, had multi-billion-dollar market caps that were for sure overrated. But I think DeFi as a concept and as a whole, and all the new applications we're going to see it in, is still underrated.
Cryptocurrency, right? So this is L1, L2 currency like Solana, Bitcoin, Ether, and whole host of other coins. What's your overall feeling on cryptocurrency? Like, do you see that space kind of consolidating? Because right now there's like literally hundreds, maybe if not thousands of different coins and cryptocurrency out there.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely going to be consolidation, right? Like the market cap and utility of various different things is going to be driven by adoption, like whoever uses it and what the volumes are and what people build on top of these things, right? I think the successful chains and the teams that are building those, the ecosystem foundations of these organizations that are building these things, they understand that. So if people start building utility and use cases that are interesting, like they're going to attract consumers, and consumers will use those services or, you know, utilize those protocols or whatever it is. And that's going to drive the long-term success of what happens next. But I think that, you know, it's weird in the sense that many L1 chains are overrated. I think same with like many L2 chains, but I think that there's a handful that are still underrated, that still, there's a lot of green space ahead. I think that we don't really know all of the things that need to become possible for a meaningful user experience, right? And so I think that all of it is very necessary. But at the same time, I don't think that everybody is going to be around forever.
And the last one in the vertical, DAOs, what's your feeling on DAOs? So early, underrated, overrated?
Yeah, I think it's still very early. There's so many use cases and organizational structures that we're still really early into exploring. I think a lot of the current DAOs either not going to work or going to have to shift radically how they're doing things, because they're experiments in the end of the day, really early stage experiments in how to organize people in a decentralized way behind smart contracts and cryptocurrencies. And these are new tools that we've never had before in organizing people. So that's going to take some time to get right. I'm actually sitting right now inside of Empire DAO, which is a DAO that is, or a co-working space that's trying to become a DAO and trying to be decentralized and community driven. And it's still very much a work in progress. Like all the members, all the people here are contributing and we're learning every day, and it's improving every day. And it's still not, where everyone wants it to be, but I think that's where we are with DAOs. It's the tools aren't there. What we're doing at Rain, I think, is helping DAOs be more scalable, manage their finances better, and grow in a decentralized way. But there's a lack of tooling. Touch tooling still needs to be built out. So many different organizational structures that still need to be experimented with. We're still at the phase where a lot of people are reinventing the wheel and trying ideas that have been tried before in different names. So yeah, I think we're still really early, and it's not underrated or overrated yet, but I think there's huge potential in the whole idea of a DAO. We just have to figure out how to make it work.